Got to hit the 15 to 25. So for that, this week, OTA vibes, draft predictions. So OTA's obviously started up already. So football is back. We're here. It's that time of the year. It's the
Yes,
most
sir.
wonderful time of the year, NFL season. NFL season never ends. It's a 12-month product. Call it what it is. But Pop, a little bit of good vibes around the young man Frankie Louvu in the building. You want to speak to that a
Absolutely.
little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL Network had a good article here recently, and they're talking about how, his teammates are really impressed. Another guy that I'm pretty high on, Jeremy Chin, who I think's another, potential real good addition for us. His particular quote says, "Frankie's a dog." High energy guy. He's gonna, energize the rest of his teammates, and you love to hear that. And it seems like he's gaining respect. He's got a kinship with Marcus Mariota. So Marcus Mariota talked about how they're spending a lot of time together in the OTAs, and that how impressed he's been in terms of watching Louvu on tape and what a problem he is, and that the ability to partner with a Bobby Wagner as well could be a very effective combo there.
Yeah.
Louvu has tremendous respect for Wagner, so the fact that he's coming in maybe as the headline signing a free agency, or one of them anyway. But he's got somebody that he almost defers to in a way, and in his leadership, and Bobby Wagner is I think a great combination too. So it's something to get excited about. I mean, we talked about it before, our linebacking group, and even Chin is a guy that's probably going to play, in that hybrid safety linebacker role at times. All of a sudden, that's become a real strength of this defense, and that to go from where we were last year to where we
Yeah.
are now, potentially with this group, that's a big upgrade. And you talked about the importance of this defense being a big pivotal role in helping that rookie quarterback along, right, and getting stops and getting that ball back for us. I think that's a great addition. It's good to hear all these things about Luvu. What's your take?
Yeah, I love it, man. We just need some powerful, strong leadership in that locker room. That's the biggest thing for me right now is we need guys that are, and I think personally, I don't think it coming from I don't think it coming from veterans and only veterans and veterans that have been here for 10 years. I think you can infer who I'm talking to. I don't think that being the only source of leadership is going to be successful for us. I think we need young guys that want to attack. I think we need veterans from other programs that have had success across the league that are going to want to attack. I think you just saw the way it fell apart last year when the only voice you had to rely on was John Allen. And
Right.
it's like at the end of the day, I love John Allen. I think he's a great football player. I understand why he was frustrated last year. I think he was frustrated for all the same reasons we were frustrated for, right? He's given it his all as a player, and he's not getting the results, and he's sick of it, and it sucks. And he loves this team, and he loves this city. And that much, how can you fault the guy for that? Being such a great player. He could have left here 5 years ago, right? So, but him being the only voice of leadership in that locker room was a complete disaster and a failure and a massive miscommunication and misassignment of roles by the organization, in my opinion. He just clearly wasn't the guy for that.
No, I
So
think it's a great point. Yeah, I think it's a great point because I think now, you think of guys like Chin and Luvu coming in, and of course Wagner, like, and I also kind of compare, I look at Eckler, on offense, right? I think that, he's going to take a little bit off of Terry as well as a vet leadership guy, and Ertz as well, Zach Ertz.
yep,
So I think now you've got, on both sides of the ball, some really good vet leadership presence. That's just not guys that, because a little out of character for an Allen,
yeah,
or a Terry McLaurin to be that vocal leader, even though it's something that, they've taken on, having other guys, injected into it, as well as DQ, right? DQ's brings an energy level that's very different, I think, than Ron Rivera. So, yeah, I agree. It's potentially really good. That's why I
yep.
think this team is going to compete in year one.
I think it might be like I liken this team to, you remember when the Jaguars in their second year with Lawrence after the Urban Meyer year, the first year with Doug Peterson. You remember how they kind of had a lot of talent around and they were pretty scrappy, and we played them week one and we beat them with the Carson Wentz year. But then by the
Right.
end of the year, they were in the playoffs and they
Yeah.
put together a crazy run. I don't think we might not make that playoff run, but I think this is the team that you'd much rather face in September than in November, December, because I think they're gonna by that time of the year, even though we might only be a 6-7 win team, we're gonna be a scrappy, tough out, watch out for these guys next year to take the next step type of team, I think. Um, but so do you want to look into this Mel Kiper mock situation,
Absolutely.
Bob? All right.
Absolutely.
How could we not? I mean, Mel Kiper, just the guy around here. How could we not look into that? So
He's your
in
favorite
Mel
draft analyst.
in Mel Kiper's mock draft 4.0, look, man, you got to respect Mel Kiper's ability to sell himself at the end of the day. That's a natural born hustler right there. And he ain't half bad at the drafting. So
He's been
good for
doing
him.
it since the 80s, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he was really the first big big name draft analyst.
Yep.
Um So good for him on that for carving out his own lane. In his mock draft 4.0, which is what we're looking at today, he does have the Commanders taking Jaden Daniels at number two. Guys, if you're watching this in the clip, go back to Monday's episode. Check that out. We spent plenty of time talking about that. And if you guys are here from the first episode, you've already heard the whole breakdown. So I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on the Jaden Daniels pick. I think we just move on.
I mean, I think maybe just get into the quote, right? He says, sticking with Daniels. Um, he's saying that this is, he's been pretty consistent with that for his previous mock drafts. I think the thing we probably didn't talk about earlier that you hear a lot with Daniels is the fit with the skill set that Cliff Kingsbury likes in a quarterback. And I think that's one of the main things that you hear from a Kuiper and others about why they think that's going to be the Commanders' picks. One reason, not the only reason, but one reason. And I also go back to what Dan Quinn says about what's the type of quarterback that gives defensive coordinators fits and keeps them up at night trying to prepare for. A Jaden Daniels with that dual threat, I think, is a bit more of that guy, and that's the logic behind him being that pick.
Yep. I like that. I like that breakdown. I like that logic. Let's move on. So that puts us at number 36 overall. He has us mocking offensive tackle from Arizona, Jordan Morgan, to the Commanders. And quote, with Charles Leno Jr. released this offseason, the Commanders have a hole at left tackle. Morgan started 35 games there in college. His tape is extremely consistent in both pass and run games. He rarely blew his assignments. Now, Pop, I know you've been grinding offensive tackle tape
I had no
every night
idea.
until 4 or 5 in the morning. I know you've been going crazy with it. What do you think there? I mean, I'll take his word for it, and I think picking up a solid high floor tackle at number 36, I'm happy about.
Yeah, I'm happy about it. I just worry a little bit about if that's the first swing we're going to take an offensive tackle. Um, Worries me a little bit because you even hear the analysis that he's projected as maybe being a better guard than tackle in the NFL,
Yeah,
but could be okay at tackle. That always makes me a little bit nervous. But certainly, I like the position. I
yeah.
think that next pick needs to be a tackle.
And
But
for the
also,
next pick,
I'll save my bold prediction for later. What I think should happen there.
I like that. Yeah, we're going to hit that a little bit later. I got a good one for that, too. For my next pick, number 40 overall, Mel Kiper has him finding a little bit of help in the secondary with quarterbacks Max Melton from Rutgers. Quote, now that I gave the Commanders their future quarterback and left tackle, it's time to focus on the defense. They ranked last in the league in passing yards allowed to receivers, 3,167. I mean, that's a half decent year for a quarterback, and that's how many
Right.
yards we allowed to receivers last year. So, holy crap. And lost Kendall Fuller in free agency. Melton, I mean, it's more yards than Taylor Heineke had, I think. Melton was one of my risers after the combine, after 4 year starter, and has the physical traits to be an early contributor. I like Mel Kiper when it comes to defensive backs rankings. He's in my good graces after he pulled the Deontay Banks pick last year, and Banks, former Terp, unfortunately now a New York Giant, but former Terp, and a guy that I think has been solid and one of the better corners, certainly better than the corner we had out of that class last
Yeah.
year. Um, so I like it, man. I said in a few podcasts back, go back. I said tackle quarterback would be how I would do it. So I'm all in favor of this.
without a doubt, we need help at corner. We talked about that last pod where we should focus on position wise, and would love to see that.
Yep. So it is worth noting in this Commanders Wire USA Today article that they said they expect Washington to target a wide receiver here, but there's a lot of depth in the class, so maybe they can use one of those third rounders to get it. It seems like wide receiver, now that Curtis Samuel's gone, is sneaking up people's ranks as a position of need, Pop. I think that's something to keep an eye out for, and I think that is going to line up with my bold prediction for the Commanders draft. Are you ready to get in our bold predictions?
Wow, I can't wait to hear this.
Ready for this one?
I'm ready.
I think the Commanders trade for Brandon Ayuk on draft night. That's my bold prediction. I have no sources. I have no reason to believe that. It's wishful thinking. And my second bold prediction will be I think they draft two quarterbacks. I think they
Well,
take
what do
another
they
quarterback,
trade? What do they give up for Brandon Ayuk?
second and a fifth.
You think that'll get it done?
If they got it done for Stephon Diggs, yeah, because he's got 1 year left and then he's got to get signed. So I think they trade him. I think they sign him to a big extension, maybe a second and a fifth, maybe a third from this year and a first from next year, something along those lines. But I think they make a move. I think they bring in Brandon Ayuk. I'm getting naked if that happens because I think Brandon Ayuk's a top 10 wide receiver in this league. I think he'd be the wide receiver one on this roster. I think you probably don't agree with that, but I think Brandon
Oh
Ayuk
yeah, I mean
is
he'd
an
be
animal.
challenging. He'd be challenging for it for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no question. I mean, he's a
I,
great talent.
it makes all the sense in the world to me, especially when you consider Terry will be by the time Brandon Ayuk's max contract kicks in, Terry's going to be going into the last year of his contract. So it just gives you more flexibility with what we're doing at that wide receiver position. Make sure you still have an alpha in the building no matter what. I that's my bold prediction. I think in the same way that Philly made some moves for AJ Brown a couple years ago, I think Washington makes some moves, goes ahead and gets Brandon Ayuk on draft night.
Yeah, I love it. Great prediction. That's fantastic. And I certainly would be excited by it. How could you not be? I get a little nervous about burning that draft capital before we build up the trenches. I mean, we need offensive tackles, we need edge rushers. So that makes me a little nervous because I think we're okay at receiver. We may not be great at receiver, but I think we're okay at it. And I think maybe we can get that bigger guy in the third round ish at receiver, and it's a deep receiver draft. But yeah, if you could pick up a talent like that, I'm certainly not going to hate on that.
Yeah,
That'd be super exciting.
yeah, I'd be all over it. So, what's your bold prediction for the draft, Pop? You want to get into it?
My bold prediction, I'm going to get in specifics here, right? I'm predicting that, you know what, we got to go get out that franchise QB at pick number 2. We're all anticipating that and all going to be super excited once that pick is finally made. And then we can start talking about the prospect, not the what ifs, right? But I think it just makes too much sense that you go quarterback and you pair him up with that star offensive tackle for the future in the same draft. And I think that's what AP's cooking up. And I think that's why he's been banking these picks is to trade up into the first round. So when we're live streaming or whatever we end up doing Thursday night, I think we're going to have to stay tuned through the draft because it would not shock me if the Commanders, and I'm going to predict now that they're going to package pick number 36 and pick number 40 to trade up to the Saints pick at number 14, or maybe the Colts pick at number 15. I'm going to give
Wow.
myself a little bit of leeway, and they're going to pick Olu Muyiwa Fashanu, offensive tackle,
Oh
starting
man,
offensive tackle out of Penn State. Because
I'm going.
mock drafts have him going right around that 14, 15 pick. I did my homework. That's what's going to happen. I'm calling my shot.
I'm going streaking. Screw getting
Calling my
naked.
shot.
I'm going streaking. I mean, if we did that, I would be over the moon. Over the moon. He's a stud. He's a stud. And you go do that, I think that
Can
is
we call him Olu? Olu. I think Olu. That's a pretty cool
Olu
nickname,
will
right?
work. Olu will
Olu.
work. Yeah.
Olu
I
Fashanu
I would be
will be a
all
Washington
over this.
Commander.
It's the kid out of Penn State, right?
Penn State
Yeah,
offensive tackle.
I'd be all over that. He's a stud. He's super athletic. He's just yeah, I like that pick a
The
lot.
phones are going to be ringing at the very minimum. Those phones are going to be ringing about those guys, them trading up to get
Oh yeah.
another 5 seconds. It just makes too much sense.
And a little, I did throw it in earlier, but I want to throw it in again here. A little less bold prediction. I think once we come to rounds 5, 6, 7, I think they draft another quarterback. That's my last one. I think they're going to throw in another one, a late rounder there. They're going to sprinkle it in. I think Adam
It'll be
Peters,
fine.
he hit the lottery with Brock Purdy once. I think he's going to just sprinkle it in, get a young guy just to be a cheap backup, if nothing else, have it around.
They
Um,
got enough guys in the QB room now, but
I think they do
whatever
it
you
again.
do late is cool with me.
Maybe a little Talia, keep him in the
No,
DC area. They're saying seventh round, maybe undrafted. Maybe you just go get him in the seventh, throw it in there. A
as
little
much
name
as I like
brand.
Talia, I don't think he's. I think
Not
he's a
quite
long
league ready,
shot.
but
Yeah,
yeah, I don't disagree. But I think that's it, Pop. I think it's another great podcast in the books here.
it's a wrap.
I think if either one of our draft day scenarios, and I think we might have to involve a little bit of tequila with that live stream. I think that would be just spectacular.
Listen,
If either one of those
listen.
things
I
happen.
don't want to be here tooting our own horn, but how good was this, man? We're spreading it
What
around.
a
Of course, got to
blast!
get a little quarterback chart in, talk in. Sorry, OTAs with the Frankie Louvu talk and talking a little bit about how that free agency is impacting the team, and then those bold predictions were
Yeah,
fantastic. Come on, people,
don't let the
tune
boy
in,
get
tell
hot.
your friends, get those
Don't let
subs up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Don't let the boy get hot and start breaking down the Masters either. We got to jump off before I start getting into that.
Yeah,
We got to go
fun
so that I
stuff.
can go put the Masters on. But, anyways, Pop, another great pod. Let's wrap this thing up without further ado. I've been Dom,
This is Pop.
and thanks for listening, everybody.